I'm just going to do a little bit of hopefully repair work, and I got to come up with a bit of an idea for a couple of spring clips on this recoil. To start, I want to just get some of this grease and whatnot all cleaned up. I don't really have, well, I don't have a manual or anything to go off of. I got a couple of pictures that I was able to print off of one of the supply company websites to get a bit of an idea how this goes together, what pieces I need. Given that it's 60 years old, some of the parts and pieces are a little hard to find. Got kind of an interesting pawl or dog setup for the engaging in the flywheel gear for the pull start. That's sort of what I'm working through to come up with some ideas to make it work. I'll give these things all a better bath once I figured it out. So what it looks like happens is the spring will go on this side, and I have the spring. Just not going to put it on yet. Needs to be cleaned up a bit. This centerpiece has a little shoulder on it, so it fits tight over the center. And there's a heavy gauge washer. that only goes down so far, fits onto that shoulder. And then I took a, I don't know, what is that, 1 3/4, 2-inch bolt, and threaded it all the way down. So it threads into the top housing. Still allows this to turn easily because of that shoulder. And on top, you sort of secure it and tighten it in place with a nut. The other part to this is this spring. It sets in a little groove on that spool, apparently according to the pictures. And then this pawl, or I call them dogs, but it sits on that pivot. The other two pieces that I don't have are the linkages in this pawl or dog. I don't know if it'll show up, but there's a hole there and a hole here where the linkage hooks through and attaches on to that spring. I probably could have ordered those two little linkages, but they were $34 American, so you know, $50 or $60 Canadian, plus shipping, plus they don't ship to Canada, and it was the only place in the States I could find that had those. And my brother had already come back from down there with these other parts for me. So my idea is out of safety pins, which are about the same gauge. They're stainless. I'm going to see if I can't bend these into the, there's a pliers. See if I can't bend these into the shape I need and make the linkages out of those. I had read on a forum, I think somebody mentioned you could use a certain guitar string, maybe they said an E string. So that may be the route to go as well. These do have a bit of temper in them, so, but they are somewhat malleable. Anywho, let me cut the sharp end off. So it's going to have to be a bit of a rounded affair. I just couldn't bring myself to spending, 34 American, so 50 Canadian, give or take, plus shipping, etc., for two little pieces of wire. And given I don't even know if the motor's going to run yet, I think I'm about 300 into it so far, so that's not bad. Okay, try to put a curve in this one now. It's like some of the chrome or nickel plating or whatever it is flaking and breaking. Well, this one might need a little more of an arc. That feels a little better. I came across a picture on the internet of sort of what it looks like. It looks like when everything's in place, I say that should be roughly horizontal with the two marks on the casting. We'll try that for now. I can fine-tune these later. Just want to get a rough idea of what it's to look like. If this spins, I see, creates just enough friction for the dog to come out and catch the flywheel gear. Now once it relaxes, once the spring pulls it back into position, well, I'll probably bend these down a little bit to ensure they can't pop out or catch on anything. That should do it. Yeah, maybe I'll take this apart. Wind the spring up in there and give it a couple of tugs and see if it seems to operate. It says arrow here, rope recoiled. Arrow here, rope recoiled. Okay. There's a pin right there. I'll put some gloves on for this. There's a pin here that'll need to go through the center one, and that pin needs to go to the outer one. But my question is, how does one put the spring over both pins? Okay, I got to do some thinking on this. Okay, so it took a little while, but I cleaned up the coil, or the spring, and was able to secure it there and then wrap it to the inside. I took the handle off of this. Now what I need to do is try to get that pin to line up with that hole, and then center it and push it in place. Maybe I'll take this affair off first. Not quite. So the pin is there. You can almost see through this hole the end of the pin. You won't be able to see it, but I barely can. Oh, it's ever so close. And it's in. Well, that wasn't too bad. Feed this back through. Before, where is my grease? Before I put this on, just lube all that up a little bit. Put a little dab on here. Oh yeah, that seems to be how it'll work. Is if this is held in place, as soon as I pull it, you can see the paw or the dog pop out. The other thing I need to find is a little C clip, a retaining clip for on top of this paw. But hey, I'm pretty happy with that. I would almost like to get one more wrap on this. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just cut part of this off. Yeah, this looks about ready to break right here anyway. Just cut the bad part off. I'll heat this up and prevent it from fraying. I'll put this assembly back together. I believe it was the spring and that. Come on. It kind of fit through this in a bit of a funky little puzzle. It's interesting, you don't see handles with this configuration anymore. In fact, I don't think I ever have. And that'll fit back in there. There we go. Before things fall apart, I'll go get this put together. Good, good. Yeah, as soon as you start to pull it, that dog comes out, or the paw. And I bought a 3-pack of these. They came as 1 or 3, and I thought, well, if they're selling 3, it must be because they're made out of plastic, even back then. And they may be prone to chipping or breaking, so. Now to bolt it back on the unit and make sure everything works well, and then carry on. Okay, so it's like -15 out Celsius, but I really wanted to see if this was going to work. So I'm in an unheated garage. I picked up some 1/4-inch bolts. I hope they're the right length. They don't really give you a lot of room to work with on this. Got one started. I'll bet these were probably flathead screws back in 1960 whatever. So I'm just going to put them in because there's not a lot of room. There's no room to even get a socket around the top. Yeah, I'm going to have to get some kind of screwdriver head screw. But for now I have the plugs are out of it. I just want to pull it over and see if it will seem to work. Oh, beautiful. Alright, well there's one more thing out of the way. Just set this back over and figure out what I'm going to do on it next. Probably the next thing I'll look at is taking that head off and doing a Healy coil on the at least one, if not both, of the spark plugs. Okay, so I could probably go but just buy the slot head screws I need for, or slot head bolts for holding down the pull start to the motor, but I've got the hex bolts here, so I think I'll try building some. Okay, so I rounded the heads, and now I'm going to take a Dremel and try to cut a screwdriver slot, hopefully right through the center of them. So I got a screwdriver that'll probably be the standard size to use, and I'm just going to try to cut the groove in it. Yeah, something like that should work. Now that middle one could be a little deeper. Yeah, those should work just fine. Okay, now I think I'll heat treat them a little bit and drop them in oil just to prevent them from rusting. See if I can dump this back in without making a big mess. And the whole issue was you couldn't get a wrench in, or I couldn't get a wrench in to turn the head. That should remedy that problem. The other thing I was reading up, I was able to find a 473-page manual on a whole whack of old Johnson motors. I don't know if this will show up, but right there, there's a little arrow. And when this recoils in its resting position, apparently I don't know if you'll be able to read that, but it says arrow here, rope recoiled for Evinrude. If I pull it a little farther, it says arrow here, rope recoiled with a J for Johnson, so Johnson Evinrude. This has something to do with, apparently, with the timing for starting it. I don't fully understand it. But having said that, right now the J is over here, and it needs to be over here when the rope is recoiled. So I think, given that there's more than enough starter rope here, I think what I'll do is take the handle off and reconfigure it so that it's in the right starting position, because I have plenty of rope to try to start it. Yeah. We're having a bit of a warmer day here. It's been almost -30 for a while. And now we're having a +4 day Celsius. So that's a little easier to make one want to get out and about and do a couple of things. So there's the JE for Johnson Evinrude and the E just for Evinrude. His handles maybe seen better days. I think I might try to slide some heat shrink over this. Got a small chunk of heat shrink. Or shrink tube, whatever you want to call it. Might help a little bit. There, that might help it hold together for a while longer. This needs to be bring this out about that far. Well, there's the range for where the arrow has to be in, and the arrow's right there. And I can still get a full pull on the start, so I'll try that to begin with. Okay, so we'll see if this will bolt into place now. And put little lock washers on them. Get the first two started. They're all snugged into place. Well, I think that's the next step out of the way. Yeah, I think those will work. Now on to the next part of this, which will be helicoiling, drilling out and putting helicoils in the head for the spark plugs. So I'm not sure how well it'll show up here. The close-in focus on this camera leaves a little bit to be desired. I may have to invest in a new one. But this this spark plug hole, the threads, they aren't in bad shape, whereas these ones are pretty much completely stripped out. So, been doing a little bit of research online about how to helicoil spark plug holes. It doesn't look, overly complicated. But I think this video is probably about long enough, so I'll save the helicoil and other repairs for for the next video. All right, we'll hopefully see you there. Bye for now.